second mark of where I want to start.
Oh my gosh.
Alright, get ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Claire's Space Talkathon. My name is Claire, and this is my co-host, guest, Simon.
Hello.
And today, we're going to be doing something very special. It's basically what we did in the pilot episode. If you're not familiar with the way this show works, essentially I give my co-hosts some form of a word puzzle, and the solution to that puzzle is the topic for the rest of the episode. So, Simon, you ready to get started with this puzzle?
I'm ready.
Alright, the topic is 5 letters. It's 5 letters. So any 5-letter word you can think of is could be the topic. So just throw out a guess.
Oh, can I ask a question first?
Yes, ask away.
Okay, is it a noun?
That's not a question I can answer.
Okay, so it could be a verb or an adverb or something.
It's a 5-letter word. That's all I can tell you.
My first guess is canny.
Huh?
Canny. C-A-N-N-Y.
C-A-N-N-Y?
Yeah.
What? In what world is that the topic of a podcast?
Well, that's why I asked if the topic was a noun.
All right, so C. For reference, everyone at home, this is I'm. It's not just gonna be random word guessing. I'm actually gonna tell him what letters. So, what letters match. So the word is canny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so C, there are no C's in the topic. A, there is an A in the topic, but not in the second position.
Okay.
N, there is an N, but not in the middle position. The second N is in the correct position, and the Y, there is no Y.
Okay.
So that N, that middle N, basically the way it works for doubles is it's like, yeah, it's somewhere else, and so there is potentially a second N somewhere else in the word, but you know for certain where one of the N's is. So it's something A, something N. There could be another N, but you can't be certain.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's so think about that for a bit. Think about what words would fit in there. While you think of that, everybody at home, make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't. Leave a like if you enjoy this episode. Comment on any feedback. We were having some technical issues, so let us know how the audio recording is. Also, make sure to follow me on TikTok at Claire Theswitch. I don't post nearly as regularly or as organized as I will on here, but I do post, and so if you want to see more of me, a little bit less structured, but mostly on my own, then go check out my TikTok. Simon, do you have a word?
All of the words I'm coming up with end with a Y, and I know that there's no Y in there.
There's no Y. There's a good few different, there's a lot of words that, it's like word traps almost, where you think of a word, and instead of thinking of it in terms of like, oh, what's similar, what word would fit? It's like, what word is similar to the word that it came up with, but also fits? Mm-hmm. And so then you get in these traps where it's like, Fanny, no, fuck,
Exactly. Okay.
Oh,
Oh.
wait. Hold up,
Okay.
everyone. I'm really tired right now. I think I might have lied to you.
Oh?
Your guess was canny, Canny.
Yeah.
The A is not in the right position.
Yeah.
I don't know if I said that out loud.
You did say that.
Okay, the the A is the the A is not in the right position. The second N is in the right position. I want to make that very clear.
Yeah. I underlined the ones that are
Yeah.
correct but aren't in the right position, and then I put a square around the second N.
Okay. Then
So
yeah, you were taking better notes than me because I just circled them. Because I'm trying to remember, and I was like, wait a second, did I say the wrong thing? Turns out I just wrote it down wrong, but that's fine. All right, well, so think a little bit more on that. Um, okay, well, I'll give the people at home a little bit of context. Simon here is one of my good friends from middle school. We've known each other for many years, and we went to different high schools, but that's how things go. And yeah, he's a pretty chill dude. No big social media presence, but who knows? Who knows after this? Maybe you're gonna start some fucking crazy empire.
we can dream.
Yeah, right. Any guesses?
Okay. I know that the A is not in the correct position for this, and that this is the British spelling of this word, but aren't.
Letters. One letter.
EARNT. Oh, the N isn't. Oh, the N is in the right position.
EARNT.
Yeah.
Okay. The letter E does not appear in the word. A is in the word, not the right place.
Mm-hmm.
R is in the word, but not in the right place.
Okay.
And is 100% correct. And T is in the word, but not in the right place.
See, I'm glad I went with that. Okay. Information now.
No, that's a good one. So you've got way more letters to work with. All right. Well, think about that for a little bit more. So I haven't really been I haven't promoted this directly yet, but I mean, second out as well. I have a SoundCloud, so I'm not really doing much on there yet. Mostly a little bit of experimenting with FL Studio, that kind of stuff. Nothing like professional. But if you do want to check out that, Claire Theswitch on SoundCloud, and you can go through that musical journey with me if you're interested. So Simon, what's your next guess?
Okay, no, that's not helpful. Okay. I was gonna make a guess, and then I was like, I know the N is not in the right position at all for this. So I'm trying to play around with, like, I know the T can't be in the last place.
Right, yeah, T can't be last. A is definitely not second.
Yeah, and, like, it doesn't make sense to have a T before an N, and we know that the R isn't before an N, which means that there has to be a different letter before the N, which I guess could be the A, but then it doesn't make sense to have an R after the N.
An R after the N. Yeah, that would be a weird place. Yeah, so... A N R would be. And then there's a T somewhere? No, that's not a word.
Okay. I'm trying to think. I'm looking at the vowels. We know there's not an E. Okay, we're gonna guess. This is not a real word, but I'm gonna guess it anyway.
That is not allowed.
Okay, never mind.
To guess real. They have to be actual words, unfortunately. The topic for the episodes. Earth was a stretch, and I let you have it because it was helpful, but for you, but I have some standards.
Okay. I did look it up. It is a real word, but it's in a somewhat niche subject, so I don't
what's
think
what's the word? What's the word?
Torna. And I looked it up.
No, that's fine.
And,
that's fine.
Oh, it's Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torna the Golden Country.
That's a fucking video game. That's literally that's not a word.
Well, are we counting it or no?
Actually, no, I definitely could use a video game for the topic. So TORNA, is that how it's spelled?
Yeah.
Alright. The T is in the correct position.
Oh, okay.
The O is completely wrong. The R is in the word but not the right position. The N is 100% correct. The A is in the wrong position.
Ooh, okay.
That is a lot of information all at once.
Okay. So we know that has to be there and that has to be there.
Yep.
And so we know that
you've marked off a good few letters so far. There's like very few vowels left.
I know. I have all the vowels written down. I'm going through them.
Exactly.
Okay. No! Wait.
What? Did you figure it
out?
out?
Yeah, I know what it is.
What is it?
Is it trans?
Yes! The topic is trans. Good job. I didn't want to say this because it would give it away, but both Simon and I are trans women. Simon is a trans man. Probably.
Yeah. Probably.
I mean, I don't know if concepts are allowed to be considered trans. You're like, I don't know. You give celestial vibes. I don't know how to describe it.
Oh, thank you.
Ethereal looking ass. Fucking the fog. Anyways, the topic is trans because as someone who is a transgender woman and who has been getting into the online community of participating publicly with online communities, it's become extremely apparent that trans people are treated like shit all over the world constantly, and I think that it's we're obviously not going to solve transphobia in an hour-long podcast episode, but I just want to get a little bit of perspective as someone who has had a very different transition and how that has affected your understanding of the world. Because I know for me, I had no idea so many things were the little subtle things that contribute to transphobia that exist in movies and shows that lead to these really negative actions and movements. So what has that been like for you? How has that process been?
Yeah, the coming out process, or just navigating the little things?
Coming out is definitely part of it, so if you want to talk about that first, yeah. I mean, there's a million different things to talk about with the topic, so let's start with that.
Let me see. It was interesting for me, cause I kind of knew what I wanted, and I procrastinated on that a bit. I went, oh, that's cool. I'll worry about that later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you can hear my fridge or the person skateboarding outside. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I definitely heard it for a second, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that there's definitely a little bit of that in my experience. That sort of rejection, almost, of being like, no, that's not the thing. Because I know for it's kind of it's more common than some people realize, is that it is a very gradual process. there's very few people who wake up one day and they like look in the mirror and they're like, "Yep, I am a trans person." That's it's kind of a myth. Some people are like, "Oh, when you're 5 years old, you realize you're trans, or you're lying." Like that's a thing that some people do.
I know, it's always so interesting to navigate, especially in a like medical context. Like
Yes.
when you don't have that experience. I mean, I don't know if it's seen as weird in like a medical context because oftentimes they're dealing with a bunch of different trans people from like a bunch of different experiences. But it does kind of feel like that's the expectation.
Right. Right. The expectation is, because I mean, that's the thing is that there's detransitioning, and people try to cite that as like a reason for trans people to be really cautious, and that's something that got to me definitely. When I
Mhm.
was a wee lad before my days of being the hot, sexy bimbo I am today.
Yes.
Um, I was very much like, um, I just didn't really think about these kinds of concepts of gender. And then when I started to learn about it, I was like, oh, this is cool. This is interesting. You know, um, I kind of feel bad about some of the things I've done and said because, like, when I was younger, I definitely wasn't the most open-minded,
Mhm.
and I would like support people, or I would make comments that if someone around me were to hear that as a trans person, they would have thought, oh, this dude's an asshole. I do not feel comfortable around this person anymore.
Yeah.
And it's just little comments like that, um, that like that you don't actively acknowledge that can still have a lot of impact on people. And so I'm like, I'm being introduced to this world. I'm not really thinking about it from a self-critical perspective, like, how do I fall into my own gender identity? What am I doing to perpetuate these issues that these people are dealing with? And
Mhm.
then when I started thinking about those things, I was like, ah, yeah, this is what everybody does. You know, everybody sees this and they say, ah, I'm a woman now, and then they go on about their life. And I think that's the best advice I can tell trans people today, young trans people at least. But that's not a thing. Not everyone, very few people like go onto a trans subreddit and see like posts of people transitioning and start like crying. Like that's a pretty trans thing to do.
Yeah.
uh, so like, were there like, did you have any of those experiences where it was like dismissing stuff that should have been an obvious sign? Like any specific examples?
Okay, so I'm not going to get too into the details of this.
Right,
But you know the person from middle school who was out as trans like during our 8th grade year?
was it? Were they an eighth grader?
No, this was a 7th grader. Um but like a 14-year-old 7th grader,
I think
if I
I'm.
can trust what they said.
I think I might know who you're talking about. Maybe.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't know, our teachers were like, "Oh no, you have to use the bathroom that correlates with the gender you were assigned with at birth."
Right.
And I was just like very defensive of that. Like I didn't say
Mm,
anything because I didn't have like the words for it, but I was just like, that seems wrong.
mm,
Um, trying
yeah.
to think of other examples, but
Right. Right. That's sort of like passion about trans issues. That's kind of.
mm-hmm,
I did that as well when I was really early on being like just learning about it, and then I would see stuff and be like, that's offensive.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, I remember like maybe a week before I came out, my dad made some joke about something about girl with a dick not being a real girl, and I was like,
mm-hmm.
that's not funny.
Yeah,
Like that's not funny at all. You're
mm-hmm,
not a fucking comedian. That's just rude. And it was very awkward. And then I was like, hey, I'm a chick. So.
I like how that rhymes too.
Oh, chick with a dick.
Yeah.
What's the trans mask version of
I don't really know.
that? Give me a second to think on it. But
Okay.
are there any other stories like that you have?
Oh, I'm trying to think. Oh. Like 8th grade, like May of 8th grade, because I had long hair at that time. You remember?
Yes.
It was like most of the way down my back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck,
And I
man.
just like I'd had it cut before, like to my shoulders or something, and I was just like, wow, that's so much lighter. But I did just like I felt like I was gonna have a Mulan moment. So I gave myself an undercut, and
Based.
that's how I dealt with it for like 6 months.
Dude, Mulan is so based. That scene where it's like the guy's like, oh, like the way that the guy's attitude, like the love interest attitude towards Mulan doesn't change at all.
Look, Shing is a bicon.
Yeah, he's a bicon. I love him.
Yeah.
And
I was actually I'm in a class right now and we had a guest speaker that talked about transmasculine representation.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically was like, oh yeah, there's really not that much out there. But from the study that I did, everyone brought up Mulan. And I was just like, you know what? Yeah, Mulan is it. Like,
and that is a great segue into another topic about trans people, which is this concept of coercion. Because even in Mulan, there's this concept of tricking people by dressing up and posing as a different gender. I think some of the other great examples of this are anytime there's some sort of spy movie where someone has to put on a dress to get into some sort of all-girls party. The concept of doing something to go into an all-girls night at a bar to get free drinks, or at a frat party, anything like that. Those are great examples where and those are those kinds of comments where it's like in the moment it just seems like a kind of funny joke, but in reality what that is painting people's real struggles and it's very much an internal sort of battle with the self, trying to understand who you are into look at that dude in a dress. He's trying to get into look at what he's trying to do. He's here's a good example. Here's a fucking concrete example. On the show MASH. On the show MASH, there's a character who literally runs around with like a dress and with the explicit purpose of trying to prove to the military that he's not fit mentally to be in war. He's like, I'm insane. I'm wearing a dress. It's like fucking idiotic. And there's a bunch of other issues with that show, but I mean that's one of them. I mean,
I think it's always interesting because like as someone who like has been out for almost 4 years,
right,
and
much longer than I have.
Yeah, and as someone who hangs out in primarily queer spaces, I feel like whenever I see something like that, I'm like, you know what? I'm appreciating this as like gender bending and also like attractiveness and also like realization of the self and like expression of gender. But then like I'm not gonna say that stuff around a bunch of cis people normally because
right. It's like he slayed, but I'm not gonna say it because it's like obviously they're gonna be like, what?
Yeah.
There was something like that fucking some TV show on Netflix where some character dressed up as put on some makeup and shit as a dude. And everyone in the comments was like, oh my god, slay queen, per yas. The fucking RuPaul shit.
Yeah.
Get it! But yeah, like, I think that that's another thing, is that sort of disconnect in cis and trans communities. Obviously, I mean, it's a little bit better with queer people, but even with like a cis gay person or a cis bisexual person, there is that sort of disconnect where even like the language you use doesn't really make sense. Like I think the hardest thing for me um, in communicating with cis people is explaining gender dysphoria.
Yeah.
That is one of the least um, like the least useful way of like usage of my time is trying to explain what gender dysphoria is, because they're like, oh, so it's like you feel uncomfortable, and it's like, uh, well, what do you mean by uncomfortable? It's like, oh, like you put on a shirt and it doesn't feel comfortable. It's like, no, because I'll wear a shirt and I'll feel comfortable as hell. I'll wear an outfit and I'll be extremely comfortable, touch wise. But then when I go out in public and someone says, "Hey, sir, you're gonna have to show some ID for that,"
Yeah.
I say, "Fuck, dude."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm getting carded, and that sucks. That I didn't pass as a 22-year-old. But what matters more, and I don't actually, guys, that was a joke. I was joking about that. That wasn't something I actually do. But like, like trying to explain that the pain of someone perceiving you as a dude, that experience for me is the like when I get misgendered in public. Actually, no, when I just get misgendered for many years, it would be a sharp fucking pain in my heart. I'm not kidding. It was a sharp pain in my heart, like someone had just like stuck not even a needle, because like a needle you can feel it and it hurts, and it's that point. It's like that point of pain from a pinprick and elongated through my whole fucking heart, and it's like and it's like awful. It's indescribable to a cis person, because then they're like, oh, it hurts? Oh, okay, then why does that hurt? They're like, why? They just said something. Causing you physical pain. Like, I think many privileged people, because obviously as a cis white person, you're not going to be like unless it's like a money thing, you're going to not really have those kinds of experiences due to privilege. And as someone who is slightly less privileged, it gets exponentially worse with the more perceived identities you have. If you appear disabled, if you pass as a non-white person, even if you are like half, white or whatever. I mean, it all varies, but essentially, as someone who looks like a white dude and isn't, it fucking sucks, dude. It fucking sucks, and it's an experience that I had never had. Like, my whole world shifted. Like, all these tiny little daggers that I was throwing at people that I didn't even know I was throwing. It was a loaded gun at all times, firing blindly, and I had no idea that it was even in my hands, that I even could shoot someone with. Like, I didn't even know that weapon was available. And like that sort of that idea of doing that to someone unintentionally, and like cis people will, it's very rare for them to truly understand that to a point where they are like, oh shit, I'm a terrible person for doing that. Like, so few people, it's like this concept of responsibility. Like, there's so many people who are like, oh, you know, I'll try to respect your pronouns, but if I mess up, you're the one changing your pronouns, you
I
fucking
know.
weirdo, and it's like, mm, I don't think that you would be talking the same if I were like someone who was born with like a terrible fucking like disfigurement of my legs in such a way that I couldn't walk. Again, not a perfect comparison, but like if I have terrible disfigurement of the legs and I say, "Hey, this building, doesn't hold up to, doesn't have any way for someone like me in a wheelchair to get in." You say, "Oh well, fucking, yeah, you're the one who fucking decided not be born with working legs, idiot."
Yeah.
That's not like and it's like and that's why there are things like you know wheelchair like regulations and accessibility regulations where it's like legally if you are a public building and you are inviting people in and allow people to enter your premises during certain times as part of your business, you have to have wheelchair ramp accessibility or you will not be allowed to exist. It's like it's pretty fucking dead simple. And
Hmm.
people when trans people are like, hey, maybe we should do something at a systemic level to maybe help a little bit with like um, discrimination in the workforce and stuff. Make sure that we don't we have some sort of we can hold people accountable for harassment. It's like, what fucking you fucking privileged loser.
Yeah.
You think you can you're making this weird choice and suddenly everybody has to follow your rules. Um, and it's like
Yeah,
no,
honestly, it's kind of just like a total lack of respect.
hundred
Um,
percent. Mm-hmm.
like, like words.
I believe in
Yeah,
you.
it's just because okay, I work as an education person at an LGBT center, so I do trainings for people, and like I can only train people who are willing to learn. Like, if they don't show
Yes.
up to a thing, then there's nothing I can really do legally to be like, hey, you work at a place, like a government place or like a public building. It is respectful to be able to properly, like, respect all of the queer people that you meet,
Yeah.
especially trans people, because a large portion of it is like teaching people how to be respectful of trans people and also how to correct their behavior when they like misgender or dead name someone.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's no accountability for that. You know. And um, and there's even laws that have the exact same opposite kind of thing. So, for example,
Yeah.
trans panic defense. That's a real thing. If
Yep.
you if you are in a relationship with, I don't even know if it has to be a relationship, but it's like if someone tells you that they're trans or gay panic, I think is
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, and you fucking murder the shit out of them. In some states in the United States right now, as of recording, um, hopefully not for much longer.
Yeah.
You can totally get away scot free. No fucking penalties on you. Hey, the dude likes boys. I had to shoot him in the head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so frustrating that like
Like murder
that's
can
something
be
that we have to deal
justified.
with.
Murder can be justified, but
Yeah.
having your boss like not constantly make you feel like shit is not making your boss having your boss be reminded by higher ups that hey maybe you shouldn't harass your employees.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous. That's too far.
Yeah.
And this happens with all sorts of things. Discrimination with race and gender have always been have had these things where like for gender specifically in the workplace. you have women being harassed, and they're being like, "Hey, I refuse. This can't happen," and then they get fired. And then you create a system where, it is a given that if you complain about sexual harassment, you will not be employed. You will not. Men will not employ you if you
Mm-hmm.
if you don't accept harassment. And that for so long was the standard, and it took so much fighting to get past it. And now people can agree, yeah, that's fair, but then they still don't understand the concept of applying that to trans people, and they're like, no, that's too far.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I mean, it's still the same principle: discriminating against someone that they can't for something that they can't control,
Mm-hmm.
and making it, punishing them for, you know, demanding rights that should be pretty standard human rights. Like, hey, legally you shouldn't, there should be some punishment for, discriminating against people who don't take harassment. It's like fucking, it's a ridiculous thing, and people are like, no, no, that's where I draw the line.
Yeah.
I'll give some people rights, but not others.
Yeah, I think it's
And
also interesting to like think about how people are like, "Oh, you're trans," so immediately, I don't know. This is something that came up for me. Like, I came out as trans, and someone was like, "Oh no, are you suicidal?" Because like, there's so many hardships that trans people face,
yes,
but it's not because of being trans. It's about the treatment that we receive.
yep,
And like, I think that can also, talking about the workplace, lead to like transitioning, or like entirely moving across the country and then transitioning at like a different
oh,
job.
oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's the legal system for transitioning is also pretty fucked. In Oregon,
yeah.
when I transitioned, I had to sign a piece of paper that said, "Hey, I am a woman, and I am actively taking, I am either actively taking, or have taken the necessary procedures to be a woman." And it's like, um, that's like classic transmedicalism, which for people at home, transmedicalism is the concept of there being a specific collection of medical procedures that a trans person must undergo. Um, like things like you have to take certain pills, you have to, mess up your downstairs, according to the policies,
Yeah.
and it's fucking stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Fuck, fuck the law. Fuck
I,
pigs. I
yeah,
hate pigs. I eat pigs for breakfast. I have a bunch of frozen bacon in my freezer, and you know what
yum
that
yum yum.
means? We're eating good tonight. I'm a
Heck yeah.
cannibal. I'm not a cannibal. Hey, Oregon law enforcement. I am not a cannibal.
We're not role playing Hannibal.
Yes. I'm not role playing. I am. I am Buffalo Bill. I'm Buffalo Bill in real life. Um, Buffalo Bill. Fuck. Okay. Anyways, no, that's not true. Okay. I'm gonna fight the impulsive thought. Anyways, so here's my point: is that there's, there's all sorts of issues that trans people deal with, and what I see a lot is this concept. What I've seen an alarming amount of on the internet specifically is this concept of 41%. I think it might be 41.
Yeah.
Yeah, 41%. So for people at home who don't know, 41% is the result of a study conducted as a survey, I believe, of trans people, and the result was that 41% of trans people have attempted suicide or have engaged in self harm. That's the That's the result of the survey. And I will see comments on my TikToks. I don't delete them. I don't delete comments on my TikToks because I want them to be reported. I want them to be publicized. I don't want to, I don't want to brush this kind of shit off. I'm done with that sort of, leave it be attitude. That's not going to get anything done.
Yeah.
But when someone comments, on my page, there's like a good chance that it's going to be something like, join the 41%. I've gotten that comment like verbatim at least once. Join the 41%. Or literally just like the number 41. And it's this weird like dog whistle where it's like, if you don't know the why, what that study is, you don't know. But trans people always know. Most trans people know. A lot of cis people do too, and people who are queer and connected to the community. And so it's like this weird thing where it's like, we all know that you're telling me to kill myself. That's the message. Yeah. But it's like, you think you're sneaky. Like,
well, that's like really messed up.
No, it's fucked. And I've like reported comments so many times in TikTok. I love it. It's a great app. It's very functional, but the bots on there for some reason haven't figured out that 41 equals threatening suicide. Telling someone to kill themselves as a trans person. And they don't even have to be trans. They could be a cis person who just might be gender non-conforming. And it's like, join the 41%. It's fucking insane. And this is like, this is the standard almost. This is like expected. I'm not even surprised by this shit anymore. Because there's no recourse you can have. It's like, this person is harassing me. Oh, what'd they say? Join the 41%. Huh? Okay, well, backstory. And they're like, well, if you need the... It's like, fuck you. It's like, oh, it's a trans statistic. They're like technically telling me to kill myself. And it's like, these corporations and stuff, they have bigger priorities than to care about that. And so they say, you can block the account, you can delete the account. It's like, no, that's not going to get anything done, you fucking idiot. And that's like, that's what you see a lot of is this I think the internet is a particularly ripe place for transphobia and other forms of discrimination, because these comments that are normally directed at friends within friend circles and stuff, or thing, jokes and stuff that normally would just be said to other people that then there's now this impersonal connection where it's like, this parasocial relationship where it's like, I don't really know you, but I feel like I can say these things, because it's not, it's a screen. I'm talking to a screen. I'm talking to a recording. And for me, it doesn't really affect me too much these days. It's mostly disappointment in the system rather than like hurting my soul. Someone comments, why do you look like a boy? And I'm like, because I'm a masculine woman. Like, I look like a dude. I literally have a mustache. I'm a fucking, call me a freak show all you want. I like it. I love the freak show. Freak shows are based. Maybe not all of them, but what was it? Venice Beach Freak Show? They had this whole TV series, and they're like, say no to normal. No more normal. And I'm like, fuck yeah. I love that. That's like so based. I'm sorry, I'm getting off track. The point is, the point is that there's a particularly vocal community on the internet who are discriminatory against trans people, particularly, because of this sort of parasocial disconnection, where it's like I'm not telling someone to kill themselves. I'm saying join the 41%, haha, lol, to some cringe tranny on the internet.
Yeah.
You know? And people don't, you know, it's a hard thing to learn to, you know, like as someone like myself who didn't quite grow up with the internet, I have fallen victim to that as well. You know, that sort of, you know, losing this concept of um, like actual people being on the other end of the screen,
Yeah.
and that's something I've worked on. I think I've for the most part recovered from that sort of, you know, that parasocial mental hazard of being like, ah, they're on the screen, I can say whatever I want. Um, and you know that's a shitty thing that I've done, and I feel bad about it. But ultimately, there are people who, um, you know, and it might be an issue that would be resolved with being introduced to the internet sooner, but it also might be an issue where, if people are being introduced to the internet sooner, they have a more clear binary, where it's like there are people in real life and there are people on the internet, and I treat the internet people like this, and I treat real life people like that. And the concern might be that that binary either is so strong that it's like I treat real people okay, and I treat internet people like, you know, fucking content farms, or
Mm-hmm.
it'll be an opposite where you start treating everybody like a parasocial relationship, and you just say whatever you want, and that would also be bad. And I'm not a fucking psychologist. This is like generational psychology. How will technology affect the disposition of a generation? I don't fucking know. I'm an idiot. I'm literally I'm so stupid. And my point is that while we don't know the answer to these questions about like how do we solve these issues, so few people are willing to try things to change. Um, you know, be it individuals, corporations, governments. You know, you have people who hear these calls to action, like, hey, you know, trans people are you know, like trans homelessness is a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have people who are kicked out of the house for being trans, and and then that leads to drug addiction, crime, suicide, self harm, and you have to, you know, as a cis person, you know, you don't say, oh, we have to treat trans kids better. You say, well, why'd they do that? Why they turn their dick inside out? That's a bit strange.
Mm-hmm.
Why you chop your boobs off? That's a bit peculiar.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting. Well, okay, I think this may be something that both you and I have dealt with, but I think that there is this assumption that trans people are either like accepted 100% by everyone or like completely thrown out of their house, and there's
Yeah,
not really room for middle ground in that. But then like everyone that I talk to fits into that, so
yeah. There's the concept of actually being thrown out of your house or like being beaten for transitioning, like attacked, isn't super common. But a lot of times it's that more tension where it's like, for example, in my household, my mother was pretty accepting. She picked up on it pretty quickly. My dad was like completely like dumbfounded. He's a he's a lovable idiot. You know, he's a fucking idiot. Dad, if you're listening to this podcast, I love you, but man, man, you're a little slow sometimes. You know, or it's okay. It's just you gotta understand when I get mad at you for being stupid. That's why. don't know if I should put this. Anyways.
Do your parents actually listen to this? Because I saw that your last one was with your mom.
Yeah, they're probably gonna listen to it. They can. They can.
Susan.
You could listen to it on youtube.com/clairetheswitch.
I'm gonna watch it after this.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see what your mom has to say.
Right? Yeah, my mom. So yeah, so the thing is, it's like my mom was pretty accepting. She didn't, harass me. She helped me a lot, medically, helping me find doctors and stuff like that. My dad was like, when I came out to him, he was like, he gave me this fucking stone cold stare. It's like, you joking? And I was like, nope. And then he took his car keys, walked out of the house, and was out of the house for like an hour or 2 hours. And it was a fucking tense 2 hours. It's like, what the hell is he gonna do when he gets home? Is he going to come home? And that's the concern. That will it be as extreme as you imagine it could be? Fortunately, he came back, and we had a conversation later on that week. And he was a fucking idiot about it. He was like, well, when I was a kid, I was fat, and I was bullied, and I kind of wanted to be more manly. So I just kind of stopped thinking about it and, like, toughened up and became more manly. It's like, maybe what you need to do is be more manly. And I'm like,
that's the opposite of the solution.
And it's like, yo, trans dad? Base? No, that's fucking stupid. But
no, do you know something interesting?
Mm.
Right, so, like, I came out, and then a year later, 2 years later, my mom was looking through photos on her computer. Like, my mom and my dad have been married for, like, over 20 years, whatever, right? And she has a photo of her high school girlfriend saved to her computer. And that's the only reason that I know that she's bi.
Yeah. I have a very similar story, but I don't know if the person who it's about would be willing, would be comfortable with me talking about it. But
yeah,
I have stories like that of cis people who are like, and you hear on the internet sometimes, where it's like, when I was a kid, I was thinking about being, I thought gender was cringe, but then I didn't really think about it, and it's like, no, you were shut down, my dude. Like your life queen or king or whatever, royalty.
Yeah, one of my sorry, you go.
Oh no, yeah, like this concept of so many there's like this idea of trans people and queer people being kind of rare, and I think that's fed by the fact that there are people who will shut you down and be like, what are you, some kind of faggot? And then you don't get to express yourself and experiment.
Yeah, I saw an estimate recently because I was doing research for a presentation.
Studious boy.
Oh, serious. I
Seriously
spent
studious.
an unholy amount of hours on this presentation.
Oh god, it's like the fucking what is it, like the time turn? You're using magic to fucking give yourself extra time or some shit.
Yeah, it said that like 20% of Generation Z identifies as queer, like queer meaning LGBTQ.
Right.
But then like only 6% of Gen X does.
Right, and Gen X is like my parents.
And mine too.
And it's like that massive gap is not created by like this concept of the chemicals in the water turning the frogs gay. That's a very strongly a cultural thing, I believe.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, yeah, because like my mom like dated a girl in high school, and like I think that I don't know what she labels herself as, but I don't think that she would fill out a survey and say that she's part of the LGBTQ community.
Right. Even though, by definition, I mean, you date a woman.
Yeah.
Like, that's bisexual.
Yeah.
That is some variant of the queerverse, the queer multiverse. The
Yeah.
queerverse. Queer
Yeah.
man into the queerverse.
That's me.
Yeah. Oh God, I keep seeing these memes on TikTok where it's like, hey, what's every queer, or whatever it is. It's like, what's every queer person, whatever trans person's favorite superhero, and then it's this audio that's like, it's Spider-Man, it's Spider-Man, oh my God, it's Spider-Man.
Look, okay, that's true. However, I do adore Thor.
Thor's pretty hot.
Like, I'm not even, like, attracted to him. I just think that he is, like, a golden retriever, and he's my golden retriever, you know?
Yeah. No, he's like an idiot. He's a lovable goof.
100%.
Okay, I know this is a little bit off topic, but I'm going to try and reel it in such a way that it makes sense.
Yeah.
The show Peacemaker with John Cena is a great example of what I hope to see more of in media. There's no trans people, I don't think. But there is a main character who is a black lesbian woman. And she's like one of the main characters. And she's kind of John Cena's confidant. And, and a black confidant to a white lead is nothing new. But the way that they play this characters, the two characters' relationship is one of the best I've seen in media, because, and what I want to see more of is this sort of dynamic where John Cena is a guy who was, his character Peacemaker is an asshole who was raised by assholes and doesn't understand any of the modern, developments, the sort of, liberal cultural developments. And so he'll like go into, he'll call a waitress sweet cheeks,
Oh.
and will, make, like really vulgar, gross statements about people. And he has like a dad who's got a really messed up past. No spoilers for the show, but he's got a dad that's got a messed up past, and he's still like, yeah, he's family. He's family. I need to go talk to my dad. He's cool. And it's like, your dad is like a murderer and like super racist and sexist and homophobic. And it's like, but he's family. And so this, Adebayo, the black woman, she's like, that's totally not okay. But rather than just being like, hey, you suck, she has this very, she's like his best friend, and they have this sort of, like she kind of like mentors him on how to be like a better person in many ways. But one of those is just understanding the world of, of not hating minorities better. And it's like, that kind of stuff is so rare, but it's exactly the kind of thing I want to see. And I think that if we can get more stuff like that for trans representation, where characters, in the moment are acknowledging it, issues, basically pointing at other shows in the metaphorical sense and being like, that's fucked up to say. I think that's like the best thing we can look forward to as like trans queer people in the audience. Media like that takes these issues and puts them in a light that's much that's honest, but also, is positive and uplifting in a way where it's like, we can work through it and we can make these changes, because it can be pretty crushing to get those fucking 41% comments, but you gotta believe in the future.
Yeah. Could I ask a question of your viewers?
Yeah, we're just about out of time, but yeah, go ahead.
If anyone has recommendations with for media with good trans representation or any queer representation, please leave it in the comments and I will go through them and find stuff.
100%. I completely support that. Leave a comment about that. And that is all the time we have for today's episode. Thank you all so much for listening to Talkathon. Hope you had a good time. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed. Like the video. And leave a comment with your favorite example of trans representation in media. If you don't, Simon will kill you.
Cry.
And cry. Simultaneously. Stabbed to death and covered in tears. That will effectively be like T-gel because, you're trans and any of your bodily fluids now have gender transitioning qualities. That's how it works.
Yeah, I'm gonna make you trans.
Yeah.
And that's a threat.
Right, yeah. If you, as you're dying, you will grow a schween and your boobs will shrivel up and you'll be like, God, I wish I would have commented. So do it! See you all next week, and I love you all. Metaphorically. Don't take that literally, you parasite fucking cringe lords. Okay, bye!
Goodbye!
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Claire's Based Talkathon. If you would be interested in being a guest, please email me on clairetheswitch@gmail.com. That's clairetheswitch@gmail.com.